So, Imaginary Conversations, the subtitle is Don and Emmy, 6 months after their separation. This is where the book starts. So I think I'll say whose poem it is each time, but you'll get used to it pretty fast, and I'll stop saying it. So here's the first Don poem. The title of that poem is Estranged. Is such a word to use for this obsession with all that is so entirely familiar, and for the inadvertent ghosts that hover on the few books, the lone CD, your stray possessions. The bed, of course, your empty closet, the succession of old notes from you still taped to the refrigerator, half a year now after your departure. I feel as if I should have drawn conclusions by this time, poetic ones about love, passion, and loss. Instead, I picture the strand of your hair I have not yet found, but will find in some untouched, undusted nook, or in a drawer long unopened, or wound around my shirt button, as though my heart's strange ghost had reeled it there. Well, that's what Don says. You can see how his voice is. And here's what Emmy says, whatever she was saying to him at that point. She says this poem, it's called The Past the Icicle. I thought I could melt it in the right spring thaw. Given a city that makes its own weather, the job new, the phone, my rings newly in a matchbox, the address new, furniture, clothes, new, sight of our histories shrinking, dripping, running out downspouts, down storm drains, down river ocean, and goodbye. What water does, what I wanted, that icicle of oil to do, that mounted the air instead. In its defrosting rose, evolved its own cycle, to come down in dribs and drabs on all in my gaze, on the crowds I brush through, thinking somehow you also have passed by, on the streets where old cobblestones show through tar, in a tunnel far below where subway trains pass, a greasy flutter of light, a film off the sprocket, a man in your coat and glasses standing silent, like a newspaper holding onto the rail, which bears the same grime that settles everywhere. Back to Dawn again, you get it. It's just back and forth. A language of birds. Oh, for a language of birds to say ourselves, to call us as the chickadee calls itself, chickadee-dee, and the phoebe likewise, and the whippoorwill, and the jay. Or to summon ourselves in a subtler vein, the towhee with his endless ringing, drink your tea, or that low trembling whistle in which we perceive the misnamed screech owl's secret name. Could we then meet ourselves in all of these and form from them that one call of our own that would lay claim to us? And would it shear away the distance and the constant drone of traffic and TV? And would we hear again the flicker's laughter in the trees? So back to Emmy. Her poem is called Admission. Ochre detritus under naked rose stems, sepals like crushed insects, clenching withered blossom heads, blasted whose collapse I observed, aloof. Annoyed at first with this token you presented for admission, to shut doors, or was it a question as to their opening? Dissolved those blooms, shadows those petal remnants persisting. Please, no more questions. No, more questions. But here's a poem from him called The Other Man. Listen, it's not so much the other man himself, not the mere fact that he exists and has a foreign accent and a wit like broken glass, an elf's face, and a standing invitation to your bed that lands on me like a death. No, it's more that tiny twist of smile that lingers on your mouth, the wistfulness in your cheekbones, in your laugh lines, the way that your demeanor echoes mine on the few days when I can feel, the days when I imagine my new love, when I'm convinced that she is standing in the line at the market or waiting in a dry doorway during a storm, though I don't yet know her face. This poem of Emmy's is called Humanity's Eumenides. Invitations engender paperless regrets via daisies, each like a pale, enormous eye, via Valentine with silly birds. And photo, you, in pine woods, back of our house via seed pearls in manila left taped to my door via chrysanthemums. 13, sans card. The first day I went out with another. Silent dragon heads accusing. Mom's from my mom, I assured. Words that made me ill, that forced me to recall your love like a bees for the hive. The polite messages my machine is full of. Offers, unstated, full of silent furies. Beckoning, full of the ominous quiet in your voice. Well, here's that title poem. It's called Imaginary Conversations. You say whatever it was you ever said that left me flat, that vandalized or burned me. I say words I wish I had returned, but did not. Then you recede, and I explain in great detail, in words I never said, how shame and anger are seldom long estranged. How in a lyric from a country croon, I hear our diminution and am embarrassed, enraged and appalled at the tidy vacuum, the perfect lack we made of marriage. But always, silence is your last reply. Silence presented as a negative quantity, a nothing that can settle any score. You say the absence of your knocking at my door. One last poem from each one. Jackie asked me to read this one, so I'm going to do it. It's called Laundry. It's the title poem of this section. Behind the glass, wet clothes, all shaped like me, are rising and falling, waving goodbye. It is the washing, not the dirt, that wears them out. The frayed collar and the inseam split are fruits of our attempts to make ourselves presentable. Renewal makes the old things older. Holes appear in pockets. Rips materialize unknown in hems and sleeves, and everywhere, invisible, the threads themselves begin to part. Begin the slow erosion of our clothes, the dissolution of wardrobes in which we have lived our lives, the passing of the lives themselves. Years go on, and old garments are cast off one by one. Final poem in the book is called The Labyrinth of the Familiar. Emmy gets the last word because Dawn got the first word. Labyrinth of the Familiar. Lost in a dream of all we found familiar, We wandered in law offices where once we made depositions, courts we played tennis on, the tiny coast town where we kissed across the road, now our house, mountains, weedy fields of our afternoon strolls, the office where I work in the city next door, searching frantically the way out until we realized we could fly, not flapping, struggling, but walking calmly, assuredly into air. You went up as though ascending stairs toward the sun, growing smaller, smaller, until I too turned, began my own climb the other way. Marched above tall trees, buildings, the tangle of our entire peculiar maze, and refused to look back. Thanks.